What's up, Nitro Nation? Man, I want one. So I don't know. I don't know if I want a 5B or I want a 5T. But can't put the cart in front of the horse, so to speak. Because I got a lot to do with Nitro still. I'm maybe 3/4 through into Nitro. So I would say maybe, I don't know, maybe sometime this year. Who knows? Anyway, shout out to, first of all, welcome all Nitro Nation, all YouTubers. Welcome to another segment of inside the Nitro Cave of a sick in the head Nitro muggy truggy buggy maniac. I'm all three of those, okay? The only one I'm not yet is the monster truck, and then obviously the fifth scale. Monster truck, I don't know. I've said before, hey, most guys that are true RC guys have a Savage in their collection. It's just one of those things, but I just have a hard time because it's the pull start. I was thinking the other day, I'm like, man, if I can get a Savage and I can figure something, some way to make, I would make it, because I can do that shit. That's how the Muggy Maniac rolls. I mean, if there's a will, there's a way. I make shit happen, okay? There's three types of people in this hobby. There's people that watch things happen, wonder what the hell just happened, and then there's people that make things happen. So I like to make things happen no matter what. There's been plenty of times where I've been challenged in 8-scale Nitro, and I'm not saying I want to throw in the towel, but it was very frustrating, and I took a breath, calmed down, and did some more research, went on YouTube, talked to some friends, and there you go, man. So that's what this is all about, or should be all about. Sure, we talk our smack, and my shit's fresher than yours, and by the way, my shit is pretty fresh. Not to brag or anything, but yeah, I got some pretty sick vehicles. Not to toot my own horn, no, I'm just playing. No, but that all comes from protecting my investment, and how do you protect your investment? There's a lot of things that you can do, but like I said, this is about helping people, and hey, watching videos of guys like, wow, man, I didn't know that. No, great, thanks. Or the only dumb question I was told is the question that you don't ask. So if you don't ask it, then you can lead the horse to the water, but you can't make it drink, right? You heard of that one before? I mean, if you don't ask, you won't receive. So, I mean, I've learned a lot of this just from watching YouTube. If it wasn't for YouTube, I probably wouldn't even be in this. So, God bless YouTube. But anyway, shout out to all my Nitro brothers out there. I just got done watching Raja 111. Great video, by the way, Raja. Good information. I have a few things to add to that, and I guess maybe throw in my 2 cents on nitro fuel, because I have a lot of, 3 years, I think, is enough experience with, different types of nitro fuel to throw in my 2 cents. Not to steal your thunder, because the reason I'm doing this video is I want to, again, show you guys, I want to go inside one of my favorite motors, if not my favorite motor, which is the Nova Rossi Rex Legend 28.8. This is a stock one that has about 2 gallons through it. So from what I hear, 2 gallons is about a good time. Some guys, do it more periodically. Some guys do it all the time. It's not that hard, and it doesn't take forever. You almost can pull apart your motor every time you run it if you like. Since I've had a little bit of extra time because it's been raining like cats and dogs, I really, it was cleared up today. Hopefully it'll be clear tomorrow, and hopefully I'll get some run time out, because I need to run this beast right here, because this badass, I mean, look, the the pieces of rubber from brand new Badland, you know, the moldings from when they make them. Look at the frickin' that shit's still on there, man. We can't have that shit. These things haven't even ran yet, man. I need to get that shit off of there. So the only way I'm gonna get off of there is throwing this 28.8 modified by Rick at R&B Mods, Rex Legend 28.8 Italian Beast. I need to run this thing in the Techno, and this will be the first time I'm running in the Techno. And we'll go over my setup and everything that and all that when I go to do some filming on when I get ready to run it. Hopefully in the next couple days. But yeah, I've only ran the Techno once, man. And I love this thing. I mean, I ran it more than once, but as far as off-road and in actual dirt and grass and whatever, yeah, it's a whip, sick-ass whip, and it redefines the name whip because this thing whips around like a buggy, man. I love this Techno, man. This thing's a freaking tank, bulletproof. Anyway, that'll be the next, you know. Bzah, look at that, Superman. Yeah, Superman needs to fly, man, and you know, Spider-Man needs to get out there. Batman, you know, we got freaking, who do we got here? We got the Captain America, obviously, because he's made in USA. And then we got, you know, Human Torch, flame on, flame on. So it's time to get flame on, flame on here, flame in the motor. Anyway, yeah, so and I watched Elite. Shout out to my other brother from another mother, Elite, Roger 111. You know, the normal guys I always give shout outs to. Rick at R&B. I love talking to Rick and talking about, you know, you can sit there and, you know, that's a true mechanic or motor builder, a guy that you can call anytime, man, and just shoot the shit and ask him questions or things you're not sure about. And, you know, now that I have a few of his motors that are modified that I'm in the process of breaking in, he's telling me things to watch and look for, things to do. You know, what type of plug you might want to run if it's cold or if it's hot. You know, what, you know, just stuff like that. He's kind of, you know, it's cool. You know, I like that. So anyway, I also watched Elite. I know Elite. Shout out to my brother Elite. Oh, and shout out to my light brother, Nitro brother for life, Mr. John Botagel. Here you go, John. Look at that. This is some Novarossi parts right here. Zah! Look at that. That's what a Novarossi freaking porting is supposed to look like, people. Okay, you see that? Maybe we gotta send this to LRP and say, LRP, look, see that? That's how you port, people. That's how you port your shit. See, you don't see no freaking jagged edges in there. You don't see no, you know, freaking half-ass work. You know, that's because it's Italian, baby. It's not no freaking rice burner shit like, you know, LRP and OS. Not that those motors aren't great, but they're just not Italian, man. I'm telling you, man. Italians are, you know, you've seen the reds. I mean, this thing, just as well. Look at that. See that? That's what your motor should say. Right there. Made in Italy. If it doesn't say made in Italy, then fuck off. I'm just kidding. This muggy man ain't talking shit. But, you know, I mean, it's quality, man. This Novarossi is quality, baby. You know, this is super za. This ain't no Japanese shit. You know, the Italians actually, you know, FYI, just to throw in a quick thing, I was doing some research on and watching some videos and, you know, of the Novarossi factory in Italy. Those guys that build these motors, they get 2-hour lunches. Okay? They are not allowed to work weekends. I mean, that's how you that's how you get your shit looking like this, because they take care of their employees, man. Their employees are freaking pampered. So if your employees are pampered, taken care of, and they're happy, well, obviously they're going to do quality shit. Which, I mean, I don't know. Maybe LRP doesn't treat their employees that good or doesn't pay them shit. That's why the motors are fucking sloppy. But anyway, shout out to Mr. Botagel, brother from another mother. Yes, John, we have the best Mexican food out here. If you come out here, I'll take you and treat you to the best Mexican food in town. We'll go to local tracks. You can run your end bleed. We'll go down to the local freaking park, which is where I do my bashing. I love it because it's in between residential and it's not really public. There's not a lot of people there. It's got a little bit of grass, a little bit of dirt, a little bit of everything, of every different element. So that's why I like running there. And I don't have to deal with, all kinds of crowds and a bunch of people and make as much noise as I want. So anyway, I know Elite is fixed. He's fixed his body, but I think this is the body that he runs. Don't correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Elite. I think it's a graphile. Yeah, these are some thick shit, man. So yeah, that freaking 5B must weigh a lot because it didn't really hit it hard. It just kind of bumped it and it cracked that shit. But if you want the green, you can go with the green Monster Energy look. Let's see, they got the Forza Bodies graph. Look at that one. That one looks pretty clean. They got another one of doing some brapping over here. Look at that one. And I think that looks like a K&N color. K&N style. Pretty clean. Shows one getting busy. But anyway, I know these are pricey, but here, this is for my brother Elite. If you want one of these, their shipping is, depending on where you get it. I mean, they got some guys that got some custom shit in here, too. Sick ass shit. But, you can get one. I don't know why people charge 23 something in shipping. That's a bunch of shit. But anyway, 60, 70, 80, yeah. So you're paying about 80 bucks for one of these. I mean, when I first seen it, $60. I mean, that's a killer deal. But I mean, if they're gonna charge you fucking $30 to ship it, that's a whole different story. But I'm sure you can probably find it a lot cheaper. But I was just kind of browsing. I was trying to look to see. You can't find any 5B kits. I don't see any anywhere. I mean, I even look at A-Main. They don't got shit either. There's a custom body right here. That one looks pretty sick. I like that body style. This body style reminds me a lot of the body style. Yeah, that's pretty crazy looking right there. It's a nasty ass body. Who, you wouldn't even want to run that shit though. That's freaking show material. Because especially, after you spend $130. But anyway, so Elite, there's some bodies right there for, what are they, 60 bucks. I don't know if you can barter with these guys on the shipping, because I sure in the hell. Oh, here you go. Well, see, they charge you $67 plus shipping. Proline has a pre-cut Elite clear body. Here's an Elite. Just trying to help my brother out. That one's really square. Look at the fucking squareness on that shit. That's a Proline body. I mean, fucking $60 for shipping. Why, does it weigh 20 pounds? I don't get that. That's crazy. See, when it comes to shit like this, that's what, I don't want to get too much into shipping, but I've been on doing this type of research and shipping and buying and purchasing from everywhere in the world for 3 years, man. And I will not, I repeat, will not pay fucking ridiculous shipping costs, $30, $40. You can, excuse my language, suck my nuts. Hell no. Because somebody out there is going to get, here you go, you want to paint your own body? $130, I mean, still. That's probably the real price, $130. Okay? Because it's not even painted, and the shipping's free. So don't try to tell me $60, oh, it's a good deal, just to catch your, I've done advertising and sale, I've done a lot of that shit too in the past, and that's what they're doing. They catch you on, wow, it's only $60, and then when you find out the shipping is fucking as much as you're paying for the thing, fuck off. Anyway, where are we at? We're at inside the look at my favorite motor. So, if you look, when you take your motor apart, okay, there's the Reds. The Reds is back together. Just doing some, I gotta, I don't know if I'm gonna run a 13 or a 14. I ran a 14 already. It was okay. I like a little bit more snap on the bottom, more than top end. I don't, it's not all about getting from point A to point B, It's how you get there. And I like to get there quick. So anyway, I can get plenty of top end out of it too. But I think I'm going to go with 13 on the reds. I think I'm going to run the Pico pipe on the reds. I like the Pico pipe a lot. I like the way it sounds. It performs very well. But anyway, so this Novarossi 28.8 Rex Legend is one of my stock ones. This one is my first. This is the first motor, quality motor that I ever got. So this motor is like 3 years old, almost 3 years old. It's got about 2 gallons of fuel through it, and I just kind of wanted to pull it apart. It's about time, and you know, since I've got the Muggy, I'm waiting for my servo, should be coming in any day for the Muggy, if I can put it back together. I figured, you know, since I had the motor out, that you know, check out some shit. So I mean, I'm looking at it. I mean, the sleeve. You know, you want to look for those little, you know, burning marks on there. I mean, on this, you're looking just for the darkness is always going to be in where the exhaust port is. So this is your exhaust port right here, which is your big one right here. And usually there's, you know, a little bit of browning around there. That's where it's, you know, if it's too dark, you're running too rich, and obviously if it's not dark, you're running too lean. You know, but I looked at the crank. I mean, there's no rust builds up or no rust deposits. I mean, I've been running Byron's fuel through this thing. There's about 2 gallons or more, maybe a little bit more of Byron's. Now, about fuel, you know, when you're running shitty fuel, if it's got a lot of moisture that's watery, even if you use Afronol, you're going to get rust deposits in your crank and parts of your motor because of it's got too much water in it. You know, so when you take your motor apart, I suggest you take the back plate off first. Novarossis, I will mention, you want to be careful because Novarossi, I don't know why, but they're the only ones that I know of. They don't use hex in any the back plate, the part that holds the cooling head on it. They're screws. So use a good quality flathead screwdriver. Don't use too small of one. As you can see, I might have got a little nick in there. That's the last thing you want to do is strip out these, you know, because if you do, you're fucked. So anyway, I take the head off first. Take the back plate off first. Once you take the back plate off, make sure that your crank or your piston is at bottom dead center, because when you pull it out, the back plate, you don't want your piston to the part of your piston to catch on the sleeve. You know, just remember, take pictures, whatever you want to do, put it back the same way you got it. Always remember, see how this kind of looks like a helmet? See the cutout on the piston right there? That part is always facing inwards, which means it's not facing the back of the motor, because that's where, when it comes down, it's going to come down around the crank. You got to remember, the crank has to clear that. See, if you put this in like this, just to show you guys, you put that in like this. See, that part goes on the inside. If you put it the other way around, you will, excuse my French again, you will fuck your piston up. So that's what it would go like in the motor. So anyway, you take out, you know, you're going to check for certain things. You look for rust buildup. Carbon is good. Carbon buildup I used to think was not a good thing until I started watching and studying videos of guys pulling apart motors like Mike Craddock. He's one I've been watching a lot because he's Elliott Boots. If you guys don't know who Elliott Boots is, he races for Team Kosho and he races for Reds Motors. So because of when I was taking my Reds motor apart, I wanted to kind of get references and get some, you know, knowledge from somebody that's been taking them apart and then maintains them periodically. And Mike Craddock's an old school guy. He's got that old British accent. It's pretty cool to listen to the guy, but he's very knowledgeable of what he's doing. So I can use that for all of my motors. And you know, he tells you, you know, the carbon buildup is really good. Not too much, but you want carbon buildup, because especially when you're breaking in a motor, because if your motor does get too hot or overheats, that carbon's going to burn off instead of, jacking up your aluminum on your piston, which that makes sense. He said, on a good backplate, you can tell by the quality of the backplates. Some of them don't machine them as well as others, but Novorossi and the Reds one do really well, because if they are really cheap backplates, he was saying that a lot of this shit in here where the piston, the crank will sometimes touch. I mean, obviously, this part here touches in here. It will fray off, and you'll get fragments of this shit in your motor, and you'll destroy your motor. So that's a good sign of a good backplate. That's why the Reds ones are crazy, because they're called diamond cut. They're polished and smooth. Now these aren't as smooth and polished as the Reds, the Novorossi, but it's still good quality. You can just tell by feeling it. I mean, they did a good job on it. I mean, just this motor overall is just quality. But, obviously it's Italian. These Italians, they're not playing around when it comes to motors and engineering. That's why I always say, when it comes to platforms, like Mugens and Technos and stuff like that, Japanese, hands down, man, technology-wise, plastics, all that shit that they do in the designing of a platform. But when it comes to motors, that's why I'm all about the Italians, man. And taking them apart and looking at Italians versus OSs and Japanese and Alphas and Orions and, and all these other motors that aren't Italian. Italians are the way, man. If you're messing around with any other Italian motors, to each his own, it's all personal preference. But you're not going to get the quality, period. And if anybody thinks that there's a Japanese motor out there that is the same quality of an Italian, you're smoking crack, and you need to stop, because it will eventually kill you. But there's no comparison. You can't. I mean, like I said, I've taken apart OSs, and I've taken apart OFNAs and Alphas and Orions and OSs and top Japanese motors. OS is probably the top Japanese motor, and OS is good, great quality, but it's still not in the same league as a Novorossi or Reds. It just isn't. I mean, or a Pico. The Italians, just hands down, man. The guys, they really pay attention to detail as far as their motor work. Their machining in there. And, and it all stems from what you're using, your machines, your tools. That plays a factor. How do I know? Because I've done that, So, I mean, if you're using shitty tools, which I heard that's what LRP is using, cutting back, using Chinese or lower quality tools, that's why you're going to get the shitty porting that you got. That, and you just, I mean, I don't have the top of the line Dremolo shit, but I know with my Dremolo stuff, I can do a better job than LRP. So, anyway, yeah, I just love this motor because it's easy to tune, easy to maintain, best, if not one of the best quality, price is great, $190 for a 28.8, Absolute Hobbies has tons of them, Rick still has some of them, so they're not like they're out of reach. You can always get you one. Keep it stock. It's a great motor. Modify it. It's even better. But it's just, you can't replace the quality of this motor, man. I mean, and I have, like I said, I think OS is probably the top Japanese motor. And there's other, there's R&B. There's those FXs like I see guys have. But I'm talking, company that's been around for a long time, like Novorossi. And maybe they're not in the racing circuit anymore, and that's where the Reds is. This is a motor that's winning. A motor that's in, top 5 since it's been on the circuit with pros. So if you are race inspired, don't even go by what I say. If you're race inspired, there you go, Reds. Or an OS. Or an LRP. Those are motors that are winning races, nationals, championships, worlds. So if you're race inspired and you're really into your racing and you like your racing thing, why wouldn't you be race inspired? Why are you messing around with, generic motors, which is what I call them. You know, there's some good ones out there, but I mean, I like a motor that's got again, a proven track record. Nova Rossi has a track record. Even though Adam doesn't run them anymore, he misses them. I know he still has a bunch of them too. Tell me off camera or whatever that he's not running a Nova Rossi somewhere. You know, even though he, you know, is sponsored by OS. You know, so, and, you know, I don't even have to tell you about Reds. I mean, Reds are everywhere. You know, there's other motors out there, but I just go by, you know, what my experience and what I've been running and what I like and what's easy to take care of and easy to, you know, parts are easy to get for Nova Rossi. Parts are easy to get for Reds. You know, I'm not into something that the parts are hard to get. If I can't get a plug or a crank or a rod or, you know, then what happens when I come to that point where I need to, you know, maybe want to rebuild it, or, you know, they recommend that after like a gallon or more of fuel that you should change your Conrad, which is your rod. I'm not going to change mine because I'm not racing unless I throw one, which I would probably just get a whole new motor. So anyway, one other thing is I have an OFNA Hyper 21 that I just cleaned up. I got it for free. It needs Conrad, piston, sleeve, and a back plate and a carburetor. That'll run me about 150 bucks for all that. And then if I want, I might send it in, which is probably what I'll do, is get it modded. They just don't make these motors. They're 8-port OFNA Hyper 21s. In its day, it was one of the badass, and it still is a badass .21 around. I mean, like, I have one up there, that one right up there on the top, and that thing's got lots of pinch. I love that motor. It's a great .21. So I said, you know, I got this motor for free. So I was like, what the hell? You know, 150 bucks. Why don't I build one and maybe get it modified? So, since they don't make them anymore. You know, like I said, I didn't pay nothing for it. So that's another thing that I'm got in kind of on the back, not on the, kind of in the works, I should say. You know, there's a couple different cranks that I have that were included in it. Obviously this one's the better one. This one's a little heavier. So anyway, that's something I'm messing with. The Mugen MBX5. Now that's a sexy looking rear end right there, people. And we're going with the white wing this time. I'm gonna try out these brand new Proline revolvers. Oh, and the last thing, you know, kind of to add to Raja's little video he did on fuel. You know, whatever fuel to me that I don't have issues with, which means it's easy to tune. When I pull the motor apart, it tells me a lot about my fuel. If I've got rust buildup on my crank and parts of my motor, chances are that my fuel's got too much water in it. This particular motor, this Nova Rossi, has had 2 gallons of Byron's 30% through it. I broke it in with Byron's, and that's the only fuel I've ever ran. And as you can see, there is no rust deposits on my crank. Crank is fresh. If you look inside my motor case, fresh. Always check your bearings when you pull it apart. Kind of roll your finger. Mine are nice and smooth. If they hang up or bind, you might want to pull them and you know, clean them out really good. Front's great. Just gonna shoot some more, shoot some 3-in-1 in there. You know, I can tell by my fuel. Look at my fire chamber, which is in here. Button heads burning great. There wasn't any buildup on that. You know, I'm looking at my piston. You know, it's got the normal carbon buildup on the top. Piston's running is fine. These are, you know, Byron's. Been using Byron's, and I've used nothing but Byron's. But I've used other fuels. I use VP. I like VP fuel, but Italian motors, for whatever reason, and this might sound kind of crazy, they just don't like VP fuel. I ran VP fuel through Nova Rossis and Reds, and, you know, my Italian motors, they just didn't like it. I had trouble tuning. They ran hotter. Not great at fuel economy. Switched back to Byron's, no problem. So I know it wasn't anything that I was doing. They just didn't like the fuel. And there's nothing wrong with VP fuel. You know, VP fuel, I ran it through my OS motor. I ran it through the OFNA. I ran it through Japanese motors, and the VP fuel really, then in Japanese motors, it ran great. I don't know why. Cooler, longer run times, fuel economy, easy to tune. Crazy, man. So I don't know. I know Ty runs OS's, and he runs VP fuel, and he gets better run times than most guys on the circuit. And that's not. You can research and go back to any championships over the last couple of years since he's been using VP fuel, and everybody knows that Ty and his dad, Gordy Tessman, they run VP fuel on their OS's, and they get longer run times than pretty much anybody on the circuit with that fuel. So it's great fuel. Lubricants, you know, minimum 8% or 9% on the 30. Lubricant 930. And I think they got brake-in fluid. They got a lot of different fuels. So VP fuel is really good fuel. Unfortunately, just on my Italian motors, it just didn't like it. So, and I only have I only have a couple Japanese motors, and I would assume just use Byron's because I can use Byron's on any motor, and I never have any issues with it. Nitrotane, that stuff that Raja was talking about. It's hard to get out here. You can't find that fuel anywhere. The only way you can order is online, and if you know by looking at fuel online, you're going to pay as much as the fuel is, the cost of the fuel is to ship it, which is stupid. I would never do that. And let's see, I ran O'Donnell's. That was one of the first fuels I ran. The old O'Donnell's blend was pretty decent, even though the lubricant content was low. And when you pull your motor apart and your motor's dry, and you're wiping the inside of your finger in here and it's dry, that tells you that fuel is not lubricating your motor well enough. So that should be a red flag right there that you should probably not use that fuel. So that's why I stopped using O'Donnell's. I use VPs, and then I use Byron's now. And ask John Bodishow, man. He has cases of Byron's. Even Ray's using VP now. So I recommend if you got Japanese motors, try it. Not that the fuel that Raja was talking about, Bones, I guess he's trying that. But again, one thing I want to add before I bounce out, because I got to put this back together and do some other stuff. A couple other things. I've got tires going. I've got to put my Mugen back together. Get the Techno, go over it really with a fine comb. Make sure it's ready to do some serious ripping tomorrow or Wednesday. But when you change fuels, I'm not the guy that is just changing fuels all over the place. I use Byron's, and that's all I'll ever use until I can't get it anymore. I don't experiment with fuels because every time you change fuels, you're going to have to retune your motor, and I really don't. Once you work really hard to get a nice good set tune on it, all I want to do when I fire my motor up is lean it